Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into something really interesting, a challenge actually flagged by you, our listeners. The whole landscape of autonomous driving policies right now.
Mm-hmm.
You've shared some really sharp thoughts on the hurdles facing self-driving tech deployment, and this source we're looking at, it offers a pretty fresh angle, a potential way forward.
Yeah, it really tackles this core problem head on, the feeling that current regulations are almost like, well, the source calls them paper specifications.
Exactly, like they're more about ticking boxes out of fear, maybe, rather than actually enabling safe progress.
Right. It paints this picture of the technology having to walk a tightrope super cautiously, which isn't always the fastest path to, truly robust safety.
Which is kind of counterintuitive, isn't it?
It can seem that way.
Yeah.
Safety is paramount, obviously, but the fear factor in regulation might inadvertently hold back the very innovations that could make driving much safer down the line. That tiptoeing image is quite powerful.
Totally. And that leads us straight to the big idea in the source, this out-of-the-box concept they propose, autonomous driving licenses.
Oh, yes, the license analogy.
Yeah, it's framed as a way to break the stalemate, to move away from just restricting things and towards setting up clear scientific thresholds for the tech to meet.
Shifting from don't crash to prove you can drive safely under these conditions.
Precisely. Okay, so let's get into the specifics. The source first breaks down what it sees as the not smart parts of current policy, essentially why the current approach might be, well, counterproductive.
Right. And the first major point is about vague standards. The argument is that this lack of clarity really limits how developers can even imagine the next steps. It kind of stifles creativity.
Okay, vague standards. The source gives examples, right? Like the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology over here,
Yeah, things like restricting the actual term automatic driving.
which seems a bit surface level.
That's the critique. Also, putting seemingly arbitrary limits on how often systems can get over-the-air or OTA updates, and even banning certain kinds of organized user testing.
Okay, on the face of it, maybe those sound like safety measures. But the source pushes back.
It does. It asks the crucial question. Where are the quantifiable metrics? Does just calling something auxiliary driving instead of automatic driving or, inventing terms like L3 Lite, does that actually make it safer?
Probably not inherently, no.
Exactly. The point is that safety comes from proven capability, not just careful wording. Without concrete benchmarks, these rules risk becoming more about, say, managing public perception than truly verifying the technology's safety.
That makes sense. And then there's the OTA update frequency limit. The source calls this a technology decelerator. Why is messing with update frequency seen as such a bad thing? Isn't it about preventing public beta testing?
Well, that's likely the intention, yes, to stop users becoming, unwilling test subjects. But from an AI perspective, especially for systems that rely on learning and adapting in real time, not updating frequently is actually one of the biggest risks. AI needs data, it needs refinement based on new scenarios it encounters. Slowing down that update cycle means slowing down the learning process.
So you're essentially freezing the AI's education at an earlier, less capable stage.
In a way, yes. You're limiting its ability to generalize and handle new situations safely. It's like telling a student driver they can only practice on roads from 5 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay, and the third not smart aspect mentioned, excluding user participation, specifically these leader group style tests. Why is that a missed opportunity?
Because real-world feedback is just gold dust for this kind of development. You can simulate a lot, but the messy, unpredictable reality of actual roads and human behavior, that's invaluable.
So by restricting organized user testing,
You're cutting off a vital channel for discovering those rare, unexpected edge cases. You're limiting understanding of how the system actually performs day to day in all sorts of conditions.
the source is pretty blunt about this, isn't it?
It is. It basically says this isn't real regulation. It's more like closing your eyes and hoping for the best, ignoring potentially crucial data that could speed up safe development.
Right. So limiting that feedback loop actually makes it harder to improve safety.
That's the core argument, yes.
Yeah.
You're missing optimization opportunities.
Okay, so we've laid out the problems the source identifies. Now let's flip to the proposed solution. This whole autonomous driving license idea, the SMART approach, as they call it. First up, quantifiable standards lowering governance costs. How does that work?
It really leans into the analogy with human driver's licenses. Think about it.
Right.
We don't just vaguely assess if a person seems safe. We have specific tests, theory, hazard perception, a practical test demonstrating specific competencies.
Okay.
Applying a similar examination system to the AI driving systems allows for objective evaluation, pass-fail against clear criteria. It's potentially much more efficient and less ambiguous than trying to interpret vague regulations.
And the source gets specific about what these AI driving tests could look like.
Oh yeah, definitely. It throws out some really concrete examples, things like tests for dynamic scenario response,
Like what?
like how the system handles a pedestrian suddenly stepping out, or those tricky ghost probe situations where something pops out from behind a parked van.
Okay, yeah, the real stressful stuff.
Exactly. Also, measuring things like continuous commuting stability scores. How reliably does it handle a typical daily drive? Assessing decision-making in bad weather, rain, fog, snow.
And it even mentioned city-specific tests.
Right. Adaptability certifications for specific cities or even tricky road sections. Because driving in, say, downtown Boston is wildly different from cruising on an Arizona highway. The system needs to prove it can handle the specific environment.
It really is like building a curriculum for the AI driver.
Yeah.
And this leads to the idea of tiered licenses.
Precisely. This allows for a much more sensible, gradual rollout. A system might first earn an urban L2 qualified license, meaning it's approved for certain assist functions in cities.
But maybe not full self-driving yet.
Correct. Then maybe it passes more tests and gets a Highway L3 qualified license, allowing hands-off driving in specific highway conditions. And you could have higher tiers, like full domain L4 pending, showing it's aiming for, but hasn't yet proven, full autonomy everywhere.
So it creates a clear pathway. People know what the car is certified to do.
Exactly. It offers transparency for consumers and regulators and a clear roadmap for developers. It's much more nuanced.
Okay, that feels much more practical. Now let's swing back to those OTA updates. The source contrasts this proactive OTA verification with the current, record-keeping system. What's the key difference?
The difference is huge. Current systems are mostly reactive. You log that an update happened, maybe regulators pull a few cars for spot checks later. It's largely based on trust and post-deployment monitoring.
And the proposed way?
It's proactive. The idea is to have a dedicated simulated road test platform before any significant OTA update affecting driving functions gets pushed to customer cars.
It'd have to pass a test first.
Yes. It has to run through a battery of virtual scenarios on this platform. Think of it like a flight simulator, but for car AI. It has to pass its mock exam in the virtual world before it's allowed onto real roads.
That sounds significantly safer. You catch problems before they hit the street.
That's the goal. Identify and fix issues in simulation, not with real drivers potentially encountering them for the first time.
Right. And the source ties all this together. The testing, the licenses, the verified updates under the banner of data-driven regulation. Why is that seen as a more modern approach for governments?
Because it shifts regulation from being based on, broad principles or reacting to incidents to being based on actual measurable performance data.
Also,
By using the data from these virtual tests, tracking the performance linked to those digital licenses, maybe using black box data after incidents, you create what the source calls an observable system.
observable.
Right.
Meaning regulators can actually see how capable the systems are.
Precisely. It moves beyond slogans and reactive fixes. It allows for policy based on evidence on the demonstrated abilities and limitations of the technology. It's a more scientific way to govern complex tech.
Okay, that framework makes a lot of sense. Now, the source doesn't stop there. It offers some forward-looking recommendations, pushing us to think boldly. First off, a national-level autonomous driving virtual examination platform, AutoDL.
Yeah, this AutoDL idea is pretty central. It's envisioning a standardized national platform, not just each manufacturer doing their own thing, but a common yardstick.
So all autonomous systems get tested against the same virtual challenges.
That's the concept. A massive library of simulated scenarios, different weather, road types, traffic densities, pedestrian behaviors. It would be the core infrastructure for that whole licensing idea, providing an objective evaluation center.
And then there's the idea of requiring manufacturers to pass Subject 3 on this platform before rolling out OTA updates. Subject 3 being the practical road test analogy.
Exactly. So before you push out that software update that changes how the car steers or brakes autonomously, you have to prove on the AutoDL platform that the updated system passes the relevant virtual driving tests.
It's like getting your license renewed after learning a new skill.
A good analogy. It ensures a baseline level of safety and competency before the update goes live. It builds confidence.
Another bold idea. Open sharing of industry data. Obviously protecting privacy, But sharing performance data, why is that important?
Transparency and acceleration. If anonymized data on how systems perform in tests and, crucially, in the real world is shared,
Everyone learns faster.
yes, the whole industry benefits. Researchers can analyze trends, regulators get a clearer picture, and it helps refine the tests themselves. It builds trust because the evaluation system isn't a black box.
It fosters a more collaborative safety culture, maybe.
Potentially, yes. Shared data can highlight common challenges and speed up finding solutions.
And the source gets even more futuristic, talking about integrating regional road condition levels with autonomous driving right-of-way levels. A road vehicle cloud system. What's that about?
Okay, yeah, this is looking further ahead. It's about the infrastructure becoming smarter, too. Imagine roads being classified maybe based on complexity, weather, real-time traffic.
Like, this is a level 4 capable road section right now.
Sort of. And then the vehicle's certified capability level could interact with that. Maybe a level 3 certified car is only allowed L3 operation on roads, currently designated as suitable. The cloud part is the real-time data exchange connecting everything, cars, roads, traffic management for optimized, safer flow.
So the car knows its limits, the road knows its conditions, and they communicate.
That's the vision. A collaborative cognitive system, enhancing safety and efficiency through real-time shared intelligence. It's ambitious, definitely.
Wow. Okay, so boiling it all down, the fundamental argument here is, instead of just being afraid of the tech messing up, we should focus on scientifically taming it, like we do with human drivers.
That's a great way to put it. The source really stresses that you can't govern something this complex with, vague fears or slogans. You need structure.
You need the tests, the licenses, the data.
Exactly. Rigorous testing before deployment, clear licenses based on proven skills, and ongoing assessment based on real data. That's presented as the modern, effective way to regulate this.
And finally, there's a point about first mover advantage. Companies that jump on this licensing idea early, it's not just about compliance.
No, the source suggests it's also a massive branding opportunity in a field where public trust is still, let's say, developing.
Being the company that voluntarily submits to rigorous, transparent testing.
And earns these licenses. That could be a huge differentiator. It signals a serious commitment to safety and validation, potentially building much stronger public confidence than just making claims.
So embracing robust standards could actually be a competitive edge.
Absolutely. It positions a company as a leader in responsible innovation, not just raw capability. It's about building that reputation for reliability.
Okay, so for everyone listening, the big takeaway from this deep dive seems pretty clear. The source argues strongly for a real paradigm shift in regulating autonomous driving, moving away from maybe fuzzy restrictions.
And towards clear, testable standards, the kind that could actually foster innovation, but within a framework that prioritizes safety through verification.
Right, which leaves us with a question to chew on, building on this source material.
Mm-hmm.
Considering this whole idea of a standardized licensing system for complex AI like self-driving cars, what other complex technologies out there, maybe AI in healthcare or finance, do you think could benefit from a similar examination and certification approach, to make sure we get the innovation and the safety?
That's a fascinating question. Where else do we need provable competence for complex systems?
Something to think about. This deep dive really offers a compelling look at how we might steer the future of autonomous tech, focusing on smart governance, not just, pumping the brakes. Thanks for joining us.